enter some personal information of yours. Sometimes your date of birth, your IDs in different forms. And these, to some extent, are not largely protected. And you have those who are ingenious enough to also hack into your process and get into the system and use your data for some financial transaction. For instance, I'm sure you've heard of somebody say, I just suddenly saw that some amount of money was being withdrawn from my account. That's because the data that you've provided for some business platforms are vulnerable, and therefore they can be hacked by very, very smart fraudsters. And so the issue of data protection is one that is paramount and which consumers have had to deal with. Then we from our discussion, you would have observed that a lot of the transactions are virtual, they are online. Now, when there is a complaint for any of the services, there is no corresponding online redress platform to enable you a quick resolve of the complaints. And so we find out that consumers will have to physically now, when there's a complaint, locate where these businesses are. And sometimes they are not even, they don't have a physical address. So the issue of availability of online mechanism is what we will be advocating for. So all these challenges I have identified are the areas that we'll be advocating for during the World Consumer Rights Day, and then we'll be bringing to the consumers an awareness of how to be more careful with the exposure of your data.
Okay, thank you so much, Ma. Can you please tell us what activities the council has lined up in commemoration of this celebration?
Okay, there are two-day events. The D-Day, which is the 15th of March, is been set aside for the investiture of the wife of the president, Her Excellency Ajia Aisha Buhari, as the Nigerian Consumer Ambassador. Recall that last year she had accepted that role, but we have not formally put her forward as one who will help us. We want to ride on her back for her passion for women empowerment. And if we agree that women constitute the major consumer bloc, then we are the ones that go to the market, we are the ones that shop. I tell some people we spend our husband's money, they make it, we spend it. And so we are the ones that go to the market and more vulnerable to a lot of consumer abuses. So we are hoping that we can ride on her back to support the women group particularly, but all consumers in general, for more enlightenment. And so there will be on that day the investiture ceremony for us to formally introduce her to this wonderful assignment that we are giving her on behalf of Nigerian consumers. But we also thought it wise to bring the consumers, the businesses under one roof, where there can be an interchange of ideas as it borders on consumer and digital processes. So a lot of businesses will be taking up stand for the 2 days. At the end of the first day, the investiture, there will be an opportunity to visit stands that have been set up by businesses. We've asked them to come and discuss with consumers as it relates to their product and to advise consumers what to do to avoid a lot of the pitfalls that they fall in their zest to quickly key into new digital devices, new digital processes, And I believe that we will be having a large turnout of businesses who have identified with the theme. But the banks are invited, the online traders are invited, the telecom providers are invited, and even the agricultural processes that involve digital. So it's a big mix of businesses that have been invited to make themselves available to have an interaction with the consumers to be able to fully understand where to stop and enjoy the digital process or where to don't take a gamble and get yourself uh, in a difficult situation. That's for day one. Day two, the exhibition continues on day two, but we have a larger crowd that we're expecting on day two because we will be hosting a workshop. We've invited the youth, we've invited a lot of students in the universities, even in primary school, and the general consumers all over the nation. And we have specific technical people to speak to them, one of which we are inviting Google. So Google will be speaking. We have a representative of Microsoft as well, and Central Bank will be speaking, and then we have the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, an offshoot of EFCC, as it were. We have DFID. It's going to be a interactive session where areas of concern of these consumers, comprising of young people and even older generation, will be able to speak to experts, and they will leave there being more informed as to how to enjoy the best of the digital system without falling into the pithole. And I think if we're able to do that as a start, we would have begun the process of having like the theme says, of having confidence and trust by consumers in the digital world that we are in.
Okay, thank you so much, Ma. We will take a short break now. When we return, the Director General of the CPC will be discussing more on the World Consumer Rights Day celebration this year. Don't go away. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, we have in the studio the Director General of the Consumer Protection Council, CPC, Mrs. Dupe Atoke. She's been telling us about the World Consumer Rights Day celebration here in Nigeria for the year 2017. But not to worry, you can catch up by following us on Facebook, Twitter, and our website. You're welcome back to the studio, madam.
Thank you.
Yes, ma. So now you've told us about the numerous activities CPC has lined up for this year's celebration, and we are aware that the council has celebrated 3 celebrations under your administration. How does the council ensure that a particular theme stays relevant even after the celebrations, with particular reference to this year's celebration?
I did mention earlier on that yes, the theme is rolled out on the 15th of March every year, but it's meant to continue the whole year. So we'll be getting another theme for 2018. And we just tie this into our activity on consumer awareness, and we continue to engage the consumers throughout the year.
Okay, thank you so much, Madam DG. Please, do you have any last word for your consumers out there?
Every consumer I meet, I always say to them, you are the king and the queen. You hold the business in your hands. If you don't patronize them, they're out of business. So ensure you get value for money. If you're not satisfied with a product or a service, don't grumble. You have to complain and ensure that your money gives you the value that you want. And of course, very shortly, I believe you'll be rolling out all the various platforms of the Consumer Protection Council where consumers can complain. But in the meanwhile, let me wish all of us a happy World Consumer Rights Day. Continue to enjoy all the zigs and zags of the digital world.
Thank you so much, Ma. Thank you. It's been delightful having you in the studio today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, viewers. You've heard it from the Director General of the Consumer Protection Council herself. You're being protected. Be sure of that. We will take a short break now. When we return, our usual segments. Don't go away.
The Consumer Protection Council (CPC) has commiserated with the family of its former Director General, Mrs. Ife Umeyin, who died on the 3rd of February 2017 after a brief illness. The Council's Director General, Mrs. Dupe Atoki, in a letter conveying the condolences of the management and staff of the CPC and the entire consumer community in Nigeria to the Umeyin family, expressed a deep sense of grief on the demise of her immediate predecessor. Mrs. Atoki recalled that as Director General of CPC between 2005 and 2013, Mrs. Umeyin worked tirelessly to better the lot of Nigerian consumers. She said Mrs. Umeyin, who built personal relationships with the staff she led in the arduous task of protecting Nigerian consumers, will be sorely missed. The Director General prayed for the repose of her soul with God Almighty, whom she relied on every step of the way as a devout Christian. She further prayed for God's comfort for every member of the Umeyin immediate family, friends, and admirers, all of whom must take solace in her legacy of love, service, and fear of God. Meanwhile, the Director General, Mrs. Dupe Atoki, this week joined members of the Umeyin family, friends, and relations at a night of tribute held in Abuja to honor the deceased former Director General. At the event, Mrs. Atoki extolled the contributions of Mrs. Umeyin to the protection of consumers and growth of consumer protection in Nigeria. Other eminent Nigerians and friends were on hand to pay their tributes to the Council's former Director General at the solemn occasion. The former Director General, Mrs. Ife Umeyin, who died on the 3rd of February, will be laid to rest in her hometown, Uga, in Agauta local government area of Anambra State on the 16th of March 2017. The Consumer Protection Council wishes its former Director General a peaceful rest with her Creator.
Remember that you are king, and without you, the service providers are out of business. Don't hesitate to come to CPC whenever you feel your rights have been breached. Our contact details are being displayed on your screen. We have 8 offices across Nigeria. Let me take this opportunity to thank the Director General of the Consumer Protection Council, CPC, Mrs. Dupe Atoki, our Consumer of the Week, and all of you out there who have sent us your feedbacks. We appreciate all your feedbacks. If you've got redress or benefited from CPC in any way, please contact us so we can bring you on the program to benefit other consumers in similar situations. That's it from Consumer Voice. Do join us again, same time next week. I am Eme Ujugo, your anchor. Thank you for watching.